everyone. How are you this very warm Saturday night? I hope you have fans or air conditioning and are coming here to enjoy this wonderful performer spotlight. Tonight we have Lynne Kaufman's Exposing Margaret Mead, starring Nancy Madden. But let me tell you a little bit about what's coming up in this week. On Monday night, we have Natasha Ruck, and she's got a piece called Let the Feminine Rule. Tuesday is Beatle Night with Joshua Roll Brody. Wednesday, we have Solo Arteal. It's Bob Brader spitting in the face of the devil. And on Thursday, at my Marsh Stream, Stephanie's Marsh Stream, my special guest is the wonderful Jacob Kornbluth. He's just recently done an animated series with Kamau Bell called Talk Boring to Me. Friday, we have Fitness Sing, which is singing and fitness with CJ. And on Friday night, we have Bingo with Josh Kornbluth. It's a real Kornbluth week this week. Next week's solo spotlight is Merle Kessler, and he's going to be doing the important announcer. I just want to make a few other announcements. One is that tomorrow is the last day to apply for the Marsh Streams International Solo Fest. I know Lynn's applied with one of her shows, and I hope you all will apply with a short to long performance, 10 minutes to 60 minutes. Go to our website and you can just sign in and just do the application. We'd love for you to be part of it. We'll be letting you know who gets in. We've got a lot, so we've got a lot of submissions, and we'll be letting people know who's going to be in the festival after September 7th. But we need to get it in this week, tomorrow. Also, very specially, we have a wonderful donor who has agreed to match the tip jar tonight. So anything you put in the tip jar will be doubled, which is really, really important to us because we don't have any income during the shuttering. Both our theaters are shut, but we are putting all our heart and soul into our community and doing this Marsh Stream every night for free. So think of it as a ticket to a show, or $2, your $2, $4. Or if you spend $10 for a movie, it's $20, or $25 for tickets, $50. So please join us with giving to our tip jar tonight on this special matching night. After we do the show, Exposing Margaret Mead, we will have a Q&A with Lynne Kaufman and wonderful performer Nancy Madden. And I'm going to set the scene so we can get to it right now to doing this performance, Exposing Margaret Mead. So Margaret Mead is in her small, cluttered office in New York's Museum of Natural History. It is 1970, and she is reading that day's New York Times. Thank you.
Can't say I'm surprised. It was just a matter of time, but I didn't expect it to be on the front page of the New York Times. The hoaxing of Margaret Mead? Question mark. Well, at least they had the decency to add a question mark. Derek Freeman again. That man is relentless. He is determined to prove me wrong, and with that, to undermine the foundation of the entire field of anthropology. Well, of course, the American Association responded, Derek Freeman's book is poorly written, unscientific, irresponsible, misleading, etc., etc., etc. But they printed that on the back page. I'm going to have to issue my own rebuttal. I'm going to have to refute Freeman point by point. Defend coming of age in Samoa, although I wrote that nearly 50 years ago. I was 23 years old and I weighed 98 pounds. Well, now I'm considerably rounder, and I have been decreed by Time magazine as the most famous anthropologist alive. There aren't that many of us. And I'm not an academic. I am a public intellectual, which means that well, I spout my views on everything. And then there's sex. You want a controversy? Write about sex. Freeman calls coming of age in Samoa a utopian fantasy, a subversive plot, a projection of my own dirty thoughts. So let's begin at the beginning, the scene of the crime. If you think Samoa seems exotic today, well, oh, you can imagine what it was like then. I was a freshly minted PhD student from Columbia University. I was a disciple of Franz Boas. Now, he was the father of cultural anthropology. We adore him with his German dueling scars and his heretical belief that nurture matters more than nature, that people are shaped less by biology and more by society. Papa Franz wants me to go to an American Indian reservation, and I refuse. Do you know what the average Native American family consists of? A mother, a father, 2 children, and an anthropologist. Papa Franz suggests the Southwest because it's easy to get to and it's safe. Well, that's exactly what I don't want. I wrote my dissertation on tattooing in Polynesia, but that was all book research. I want to do my own field research, my own original field research. At my graduation ceremony, Ruth Benedict, my instructor, takes me aside and says to me, the only thing that Professor Boas and I can offer you is work with meaning. The ancient cultures of the world are vanishing, and it's urgent that we record them. Time is of the essence. Ruth is the only other faculty member in this newly formed department. She is a tall, slender woman, about 15 years my senior, and she's of hard of hearing, which makes her speech a bit hesitant. But between every hem and haw, her brilliance shines. I have a mad crush on her. And it is Ruth who comforts me when my classmate, Mary, dies. Mary isn't one of our groups, the Ashcan Cats, as we cool girls called ourselves. Mary is a bookish type. She's given to melancholy and kind of a loner. I befriend her, and she clings to me rather more than I would like. At Christmas, I give her a volume of Keats, and she asks me to spend New Year's Eve with her. But there is another girl that I like and prefer, so I say no. And that night, Mary swallows cyanide. Her suicide note reads, half in love with easeful death. Keats, from the book I gave her. All the girls are sad, but I am stricken. It is my fault, and I could have saved her. Ruth Benedict writes to me and offers me the solace of her company. Oh, no, but you must be so busy, I protest. There is nothing I need to do that cannot be postponed, she says. I go to her apartment and she listens as I cry my pain, and her own eyes glisten with tears. Her arms are surprisingly warm and strong. And she holds me. And she tells me that the first time she saw me laughing and lively in a bevy of girls, she knew that I was exceptional. So when I graduate from Columbia, I am filled with idealism. I'm a woman with a mission. But how am I going to convince Papa Franz to recommend me for a research grant? Subtlety is not my strong suit. Papa Franz, I want to go to Polynesia. No, it's too far away. Well, that's the whole point. It will be authentic, untouched. There, are you thinking of? New Guinea. They are headhunters. Well, what about American Samoa? There is an American Navy base there and in Pango Pango, and they have a mailboat that comes every 3 weeks. You want to live in Pango Pango? No, but I can start out there and get acclimated before I move further inland. No, you don't speak the language. I have been learning. Fa, mole mole, tatu, no fu, fu ina. What does that mean? Well, that means, please sit down. And then what? That's all I know. English. I have come to study adolescent girls. For what reason? To compare them to American teenagers, to see if adolescent rebellion is innate and universal, or is it a result of cultural values? Nature versus nurture. Exactly what you've been asking us to explore. So you will study the family structure, the kinship system, education, and sex. Here in the States, thanks to the church, you can hardly talk about it. And lately, everyone's up in arms about the flappers, bobbing their hair and smoking and drinking and fooling around, getting pregnant. Their girls are dropping out of school and they're ending up in the courts. So you think maybe this is not so in Samoa? Well, I want a chance to find out. Maybe they know how to deal with it better than we do, and I can learn something and I can bring it back and help American parents raise their children. Applied anthropology. To be of use, absolutely. So maybe I can just find a small grant for your materials, but the travel is very costly. My father can pay. You will ask him? Here is his check. A check from the man who, when I went away to college, said, "It's a pity you're not a boy. You would go far." Well, Dad, is Samoa far enough? I invite Ruth Benedict to accompany me on the train trip from New York to San Francisco, as she is on her way to the Grand Canyon. And we share a compartment. And in those close quarters, amid the swaying of the car and the rumble of the rails, we make love. Slowly, tenderly. And I have my first orgasm. I weep when I have to leave Ruth. I'm married to my childhood sweetheart, Luther, and Ruth's married too, You had to be back then, but that doesn't preclude affairs of the heart. Ruth is the sun around which every other love revolves. She says, I rest her like a padded chair by a fireplace. And I tell her I want to bury my face in her hair. Indeed, when I look back at my life, I do think it makes the most sense. A woman lover when you're young, a male when you're fertile, and a woman partner after menopause. Or is that just me? Am I aberrant, an outlier? Well, that's what Derek Freeman is accusing me of. Oh, could he be right? Could I have been coming up with all my theories just to validate my own life? To justify how I've lived? 3 husbands and Ruth, and well, for the last 20 years, my lover and companion, dearest Rhoda. They're all anthropologists with extraordinary minds. Heated conversation leads to hot sex. Why does it shock people that a grandmother is still lusty, still wanting kissing and touching and more? Lots more. Do I romanticize Samoa? Well, so does anybody else who is lucky enough to go there. The English poet, Rupert Burke, called Samoans the easiest, smilingest people he ever saw. And well, I feel the same way. Although I write my first version of Coming of Age in Samoa as a straightforward anthropological report to be read by a handful of specialists and put away on a university bookshelf somewhere. But when I submit it to William Morrow, my publisher sees the possibility of a wider audience. It's sexy, he says. Write it for the lay public. So I do. It begins like this. As the dawn begins to fall among the swaying palm trees and the gleaming sea, lovers slip home from trysts beneath the shadows of the beached canoes. And the cover, of course, has a bare-chested young girl and boy, and their slender loins are draped in colorful sarongs running hand in hand from the underbrush. And no, the entire book is not about sex. That's just the part everybody wants to read. I interview 50 Samoan girls, females from the ages of 15 to 20. They're all sexually initiated, and many have enjoyed a number of positions with a variety of partners. The norm is to have as many sexual experiences as you want before one marries and has children. And even then, extramarital affairs are common. The Samoans don't equate love with sex, so there's no cause for romantic jealousy. Romance sometimes is present in the beginning stages of a relationship, but nobody expects that to last. And the girls I interview are not at all shy about talking to me about their liaisons. They rate the boys in the village by 3 things: their good looks, their sexual technique, and their stamina. If a boy can't perform multiple times throughout the night, he is considered senile. And virginity is, well, it's not something to be preserved, but something to be shed in the natural order of things, like an umbilical cord or baby teeth. And well, of course, there is the role of the ceremonial virgin, and she has very special, important duties. I am honored with that title, and I'm known as Makalita, which is the Samoan version of Margaret. Well, the role has changed greatly since its origin. It used to denote the daughter of a high chief who upheld the honor of the tribe by preserving her virginity. And then when she was suitably betrothed, she would retire to a hut with her husband-to-be and was deflowered on a specially woven mat. The mat, adorned with the blood of the severed hymen, was then displayed for the waiting crowd, and a major celebration ensued. Well, for me, the role was greatly modified. I served the chiefs, their kava cups in the ritual drinking ceremonies, and I dance for visiting dignitaries, and I lead processions. No one knows I'm married, and with my small stature and slight figure, I pass for a young girl. And as promulgated by Derek Freeman, the stories that I dance bare-breasted and have an affair with a Samoan man are not true. Although, well, I was approached several times by Samoan suitors who were noted for their prowess. When you write from experience, you'll report better. Freeman's own research brings him back to Tau, the village where I stayed, and he finds one of the girls I interviewed, Fautoma. She's now a grandmother. And she remembers me fondly, but under Freeman's questioning, she confesses that the stories she told me were lies, that she and the other girls told me what they thought I wanted to hear. And they laughed. They laughed behind me, behind my back, at me, and at what I wanted to know. According to Freeman's research, well, there's no free love in Samoa, and the Samoans have just as many cases of rivalry and jealousy and, well, even violence as we do. He gives us an example of the moatolo, or night crawling. He claims I didn't even mention it, but I did. I didn't give it the same interpretation. Night crawling is when a boy sneaks into a girl's hut and, under the cover of darkness, has digital or oral sex with her while she is asleep. And if she wakes, she screams and her father comes out, chases the boy, and he is beaten. Derek calls this rape. And yet, in my research, the most popular boys in the village are the most frequent night crawlers, and they don't get caught. So, can this possibly be consensual? Well, I try, but I can't seem to find out. Sometimes it's very difficult to get a straight answer about anything, like this typical exchange. When a son's tattooed the son of a chief, they build a special house, don't they? Yes, well, sometimes they build a small house of sticks and leaves. Is that house taboo? No taboo. Can you take food into it? Oh, not, that's taboo. Can you smoke in it? Oh, no, very taboo. Can anyone go into the house who wishes? Yes, anybody. Anybody at all? Yes, everybody can go in. No one is forbidden to go in. No one. Can the boy's sister go in? No, oh no, that's taboo. So maybe it isn't strange that Derek and I get different answers. Different days, different answers. And we're such different personalities. You know, Derek has also had several emotional breakdowns in the field. One of those times he ran amok in the village, cutting off every erect penis he could find. Well, fortunately, confined to the fertility statues. But really, are any of us rational when we are in the throes of emotion? Was I when I left Luther for Rio Fortune. I met Rio on a ship from Sydney to Southampton. It was a 7-week journey. Rio was from rural New Zealand, and his name means logos or the word in Maori. He is tall and rangy, and he has black hair and blue eyes, and his talk is fiery. It's lyrical. William Blake in safari shorts. And he says, I am his favorite type of woman, one whose shoulder straps slip and is willing to dance all night. Yes, that's me. He was on his way to receive a scholarship to study psychology at Columbia. But by the end of the journey, I had convinced him to switch to anthropology and to me. And after my Mexican divorce from Luther is finalized and Rio finishes his year of study, we set off for Papua New Guinea as man and wife. I keep my maiden name, as I have with Luther. I was born Margaret Mead, and I shall die Margaret Mead. That is who I am. It is my identity. And I am developing a considerable national profile. Oh, not among the academics, where I am suspect as a popularizer, but people read my books and they seek my company. I am known. And this causes Rio major distress. When we collaborate on our New Guinea book, well, I get top billing. And Rio says, castrator, you want to cut off me balls. New Guinea is a very difficult place to be. It's hot, broiling sun, it's humid, lethal insects, snakes, and the tribesmen have only recently stopped eating human flesh. We both contract malaria, my neuritis flares up, my bad ankle inflames, and the malaria. And there's the formidable complication then of Gregory Bateson. Old 6'6", brilliant, shambling Gregory Bateson. He is doing field research not far from us. And well, when we meet up, Gregory is in far worse shape than we are. We bring him to our tent and we nurse him through the rest of his malarial fevers and his hallucinations. And by this point, Rio and I are arguing from the moment we make up until the moment we fall asleep. And Gregory's company is a welcome addition until Rio decides in a rage to kill us both. We have to hide his revolver. I think I still have it around here somewhere. Rio is fiercely jealous. He accuses me of falling in love with Gregory and out of love with him. Well, I defend myself. It isn't true. It's just the research breakthrough that I have with Gregory. We call it the squares. Yeah, damn squares. You're still going on about that. Well, it's the most important research break I've ever had. It's a way to understand ourselves and everyone else. Reducing humans to 4 categories. Human complexity in 4 categories. Well, but it works. Just listen. All right, I'll listen, but only if it'll shut you up. We call the personality types Turks, Fays, Northerners, and Southerners. Turks are mysterious, and Fays are expansive. Northerners are controlling. Southerners are experimental. You've made me a Northerner, haven't you? And you and Bateson are Southerners. That's how it seems to you. You create theories to validate your own preferences, fine. But don't damn my character because you want to fuck Bateson. I'm not damning his character. But I do want to fuck Bateson. But I wait until after I divorce Rio. I am a bit concerned that 3 marriages will not look good on my resume. But Gregory assuages my doubts. It's a sign of growth, he says. Ecdysis. That's a term he learned from his biologist father. That's when a snake sheds its old skin for a new one. I do shed my old skins, but I keep them. I stay in touch with Rio until he dies, and I still keep up with Luther. Another reason I want to marry Gregory is that I want to have a child, despite my diagnosis of a tilted uterus. Rio is not a good candidate for fatherhood. Gregory is, and it is very pleasant trying to procreate. Gregory and I get a grant to do field research in Bali, and we are there for 3 years. I love Gregory more than I have ever loved any other man. I still do, and I'm devastated when it ends. It still hurts. For the first time, I understand what a broken heart is. And he is also the only man who ever leaves me. I chose Luther primarily to get marriage out of the way. It was a student marriage, and I outgrew him. Rio, he was the antithesis. He was toxic masculinity. Gregory is a prince, rumpled and unshaven, but a scion of academic royalty. He has a brilliant but divergent mind, and he has terrible trouble focusing and organizing, and that's where I prove useful. He calls me grub, and he tells my mother that I look like a female Darwin. He means that as a compliment. We have a movie camera now, and we are able to document everything visually. We take thousands of still photos, and we even make a short film, Trance and Dance in Ballet. We take thousands of still photos, and we pride ourselves on the objectivity of film compared to the subjectivity of note-taking. But in thinking about Freeman's accusations, someone has to decide where to point the camera and how long. And is that just another form of subjectivity? Our life is field work during the day and baby making at night. I write to Ruth Benedict that we are so content that we spend an hour a day just purring. I have a few miscarriages, but I persevere, and when I become pregnant, I go back to the States to give birth. I try to find an obstetrician who will let me deliver in a squatting position, but I can't. Doesn't matter though. Mary Catherine Bateson is a plump, healthy baby with a lovely disposition, not at all like me. I was so defiant that my mother once locked me in a closet, and when she freed me, I screamed, "I spit on your hat. I spit on your dress." I'm waiting for more spit. We have a nanny for Catherine, which suits me just fine. I am back at the museum and teaching at Columbia, but I make sure that I am home to breastfeed Kathy. This is not popular with the elite mothers of Manhattan, but I've learned a lot from my field work in the South Pacific. And I hire a young, free-thinking pediatrician, Ben Spock. He supports my ideas, and we construct a whole schedule around the baby, not the other way around. she flourishes and she becomes a thoughtful, independent child. Once, when she is 4, she climbs up into a palm tree. Climb down, Kathy, and stop eating the pine needles. Indians eat pine needles. Who told you that? You did. Well, they need to get their vitamin C. They don't have oranges. Why don't they have oranges? And of course, I tell her more than she needs to know. Because the white man took away their land. Am I white? Yes, you are. But I didn't took their land, and I don't like it to be taken. That empathy is nurtured in our extended family. The 3 of us share a brownstone with another family, and Kathy is delighted to get so many siblings all at once. I know that Gregory has the occasional affair, and I am a proponent of open love, so I accept that. I have to suppress a bit of jealousy, but I understand. After all, I still love Ruth, although we're not sexual anymore. Gregory is more than enough for me. But it isn't reciprocal, alas, and Gregory leaves, marries another woman, and has another family. Kathy misses him. I missed you more. When was that? When you went off to work for the government? Oh, there was a war on. You moved to DC and you didn't take me. Well, I was working around the clock. I take my Vanny with me. Well, you're a better mother than I was. Different. And a better wife. Because my marriage lasted? Because you and Barkov chose your relationship above all others. I could never enter a relationship that closed others out. I know. Our house was a village and our sofas were beds, so you could always offer someone a place to sleep. Vanny's been asking for you. When can you visit? Soon. I promise. But now I have a lecture to deliver. My plan was to share my views on current issues: global warming, overpopulation, abortion, decriminalizing abortion, and legalizing marijuana. I have opinions about everything. Are they wrong? Dangerous? Freeman isn't my only critic. A conservative think tank listed the 50 worst books of the century. Coming of Age in Samoa was number 1. Was worse than Mein Kampf. Mead misled a generation into believing her fantasy of sexual progressives was an historical reality. Well, maybe they're right. What do I really know for certain? Human nature is wildly malleable, and each society thinks that its way is best. You say potato, I say potato. You say tomato, I say tomato. For example, consider these 3 tribes who live a few miles from each other. The Arapash believe that the fetus is fed by the father through frequent and rigorous intercourse. A common remark among people when glimpsing a handsome older man is, "You should have seen him before the children." In Mundagamore, both sexes are suspicious, angry, and jealous. And well, the only thing that really brings them together is a good headhunting. And in Chambuli, the women shave their heads, fish, and tend the crops, while the men grow their hair long and paint their faces and dance. You say either, and I say either. You say neither, I say neither. Here are a few more takeaways. Not everything in the world needs to be paired like shoes and socks. Some things can exist separately, like love from sex, marriage from procreation, a family from a partner. One loves differently with different people. Extreme heterosexuality is a perversion. Diversity is a resource, not a handicap. The nuclear family is a petri dish for neuroses. And yet one of the oldest human needs is having someone wonder where you are when you don't come home at night. Do you know what the first sign of civilization is in an ancient culture? It's not a fishhook or a pot or a grinding stone. It's a femur, a thigh bone that has broken and has healed. In the animal kingdom, if you break your leg, you die. You cannot run from danger, go to the river for a drink, or hunt for food. You are meat for prowling beasts. No animal in the wild with a broken leg survives long enough for the bone to heal. A broken femur that has healed is evidence that someone has taken the time to stay with the one who was injured, to bind up the wound. They've carried that person to safety, and they've tended the person through recovery. Helping someone through difficulty is the first sign of civilization. War is where it can threaten to end. The biologists declare that war is inevitable and universal, but it is neither. It is an invention, like cooking by fire or trial by jury. The Pueblo Indians hate to fight, and they only do so when they are provoked. The Plains Indians love to fight because it brings them glory and nubile women. And then there is a tribe in New Guinea who, when war is declared, only the chieftains battle, and the other warriors watch. It ends when one chieftain is wounded or is too tired to carry on. And if it rains, well, then the battle is called off because neither one wants their paint to run or their feathers to wilt. Ah, vanity. That could be me and Derek. Can you picture the two of us in loincloths and war bonnets shouting insults at each other? You intellectual lightweight, jealous usurper. It's time to stop all this. Chieftain to chieftain. Derek, I'm calling you right now. Oh. Well, Derek, I'm sorry you're not home, but I'm going to leave you a message. It's Margaret, by the way. All right. I saw the headline in the New York Times today and the response from the American Association calling for the public condemnation of your work. But Well, they're trying to protect me and themselves. After all, Derek, I am the anointed mother of anthropology. And coming of age in Samoa is the urtext. But not to worry, Derek, I am not going to pursue this. I'm going to ask them to call it off. I don't believe in book banning. Science is a dialogue. You accuse me of naivete, of being duped by my Samoan informants, and your findings dispute mine. But remember, Derek, you interviewed a much older woman on a different island many years later. You accuse me of generalizing from too few examples. All right, there you might be right. We all see the world through our own eyes, myself included. But at least mine is in a positive direction. The way things are is not the way they have to be. We can choose better behavior. We can make better choices. But your accusations did lead me to a useful exercise in self-reflection, so thank you for that. But I will debate you no further. I need to move on. There's so much to do. I don't want to spend time with my daughter and my granddaughter. So, for the record, there are only 2 precepts for which I will forever advocate. All races are equal. Sexual identity is fluid. Goodbye, Derek. Time to get ready. I've got a lecture to give. My cape. Batman, Superman, village shaman. It keeps me warm, and no matter how much I eat, it always fits. And my staff. Neptune's trident, a bishop's crosier, divining rod. I can knock things off shelves, hail a taxi, and it helps me on bumpy ground, where I frequently find myself. My parting advice. It is possible to hold 2 contradictory thoughts at the same time. You are absolutely unique. So is everybody else. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
How wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Lynn. How do you feel, Nancy?
It's pretty hot in here. I mean, I feel good, but it's a wonderful piece, Lynn. It's a wonderful piece.
Here's Lynne Kaufman, the wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, Nancy, that was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, Lynn, is this the first time this has been done publicly?
Absolutely. This is opening night, Stephanie. Opening night on Zoom.
The Marsh instead of the Marsh Stream.
The Marsh Stream. The Marsh Stream. Yeah, and here we are. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's lovely to, there is an advantage. I'm noticing, I don't know how you feel about this, Nancy, but the focus, because it's Zoom, you catch every expression and, and every nuance. I noticed this when I would go to the National Theatre in London and I would see the production live, love it. Then I would see it they filmed it, and you could see it in the movie theater. And I almost liked it better there because I didn't miss a word. You know, the camera told you where to look and the acoustics were perfect. And I wasn't trying to peer over anyone else's head. So in a way, it's a different form, but for a solo performance, it works.
It is. It works so well. Oh my goodness, I loved every word of it. I didn't know that much about Margaret Mead. Now I think I know a little bit more. Lynn, what made you pick Margaret Mead?
Oh, I think it's what's going on today in the world about gender and race. And you think back, she was so prescient, so ahead of her time. And those two statements that she believed is that all races are equal and sexuality is fluid. It's fluid through your life. And you think when she said this, it was like the 1930s. So I was drawn to her because of her courage and the fact that she was a public intellectual, that she's a woman, her sensuality. Public intellectual women, you're supposed to be, I don't know what, chaste. CHASTE. No, I thought about the other. You're not supposed to be chased by men. And I wanted to show too that even then, it's very hard to manage a really important work life and give time to your daughter, to your kid too. So those conflicts, and then again, the accusation that she got, the attack from Derek Freeman, and I thought she handled that just so beautifully. Yeah, and that was it. And Nancy, what drew you to, or what have you found in Margaret now that you've gotten a chance to do it a few times on Zoom?
Well, the first, Lynn sent me an email and said I've written this this solo show on Margaret Mead, and I immediately wrote back. I didn't even read the script. I said, of course, I'll do your solo show, because I've seen most of Lynn's solo pieces and they're wonderful. And I started reading the script, and I literally had to stop in the middle of reading the script and Google Margaret Mead and some information, because I couldn't figure out where I was in time, and I needed to place her in time. I mean, when she went to Samoa, that was the 1920s. That's almost 100 years ago. And I thought, really, I mean, she was born in early 1900s, and so that was nearly 100 years ago. And here, and I was reading the script and thinking, well, I mean, she could give that speech today. So I was really struck by how timely it is, and it's a two-sided issue, because on the one hand, Margaret Mead, all of this to her are basic human truths. They're just basic human truths, and it wasn't revolutionary, something she did. It's basic, fundamental human. It is what a human being is, and so in a way, it's too bad that 100 years later, we're still trying. There are still people that don't understand that those things that she talked about are basic human truths. So that to me is really interesting. And I mean, the more I just had to. There was so much on her, and she's written. So I mean, she had a career that lasted 50 years, and so at a point, I said to Lynn, a point, I don't know, several days ago, I had to stop reading stuff. I just had to stop and go to the script and say, I got to go on this journey. Lynn has written this journey, and now I just have to focus on that. So I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. And I'm really excited that I guess it's time to reintroduce Margaret Mead to a new generation who didn't study her in school.
That is all so true. So true. And I just want to take a little commercial break here and say, everybody, we have a match tonight. Think about giving us a donation to our tip jar. It's tax deductible. It's doubled. Help keep this, it's just like KQED. Help keep this public broadcast platform alive. Help keep Marshstream to keep supporting these performances, performers, and writers. Okay, back, done with the commercial break. Do you know that you had over 200 people, 100 people in the Zoom room because that's our limit, and 200 people that moved over to YouTube?
Oh, we are so.
Oh my goodness, really?
That
Welcome you YouTubers, welcome your Zoomers. Thank you so much. And you've got the incredible congratulatory things in the chat. We'll talk a few more minutes and we'll get some questions, but if you have a question, please write it in the chat if you can. And I don't know how you do it on YouTube, but I think Brian does. He can look at the questions and put them in the chat for us.
And so I just want to echo what you said, Stephanie, and add the importance of the Marsh for a playwright. It's local, it's welcoming to San Francisco Bay Area performers, and the thing happens quickly. Instead of having to go through all kinds of workshops and readings and this and that, Stephanie comes, and if it works for her, and so much does, because you want it, you want that richness, and you have a platform for it. So it's a treasure on Valencia Street, and it's going to open again. So yeah, if you like it, I'm going to give a donation tonight, and maybe you will too.
Thank you, Lynn. And Lynn, all of a sudden became a solo after her 20 plays, which maybe includes her solo performances. She has written 3 plays, 3 solo performances in the past 4 years that we have done at the Marsh. And this would be, is this 4? Or is this
will be the 4th. One was outrageous because it had 2 actors in it and actually a set. And I remember the guy who introduced it said, "This is unique for the Marsh." 2 performers and I said that was Kelly, Robert Kelly from Theater Works, who directed something called 2 Minds. And the other shows, Acid Test, about Ramdas, Sylvia Plath, and we had one on Susan Sontag, which we didn't get a chance to do before everything. We did once before COVID closed us down. And now tonight, Margaret Mead.
You certainly are prolific.
Yes.
Prolific. So how did it feel for you to do it on Zoom? We heard that it worked well. It did. It worked well. And Lynn thinks so. And I think so. And I think the audience thinks so. How did it feel to do it?
Now, you're asking me. Yes. I was thinking about this today. It's doing a piece like this on Zoom. It's a very interesting, it's not exactly theater, but it's not film either. It's a really interesting combination of both, because it's not a screenplay and it's not filmic, and but yet technically it's very confining, and you're in this little space, and if I move a little bit, you're going to see the vacuum cleaner, which is not good. So, and yet there is a theatricality about it. I'm very aware that I'm doing a theater piece, and there are 2 things going on. It's really interesting. On the one hand, I'm pretty focused because there's no distraction. It's just me. And then on the other hand, it's just me. There's no audience. So there are 2 different contradictory feelings there, but all in all, I'm so grateful that we have this opportunity to do this, that we have Zoom and that we have Stephanie and the Marsh to, be able to do our work.
Well, thank you.
What I would add for, the that Nancy needs to do, and she does it on Zoom, is if we were doing a performance, she would be blocked. She would be able to move around. There would be delegated spaces, working with a director that this is, okay, this is where your daughter is. This is when she was little. So, you know, you have almost distinct scenes. And music, we would probably have some music for transition. We don't have any of that. So Nancy has to make all those scene changes, you know, moving from a chronological time, you know, from when she was in her 20s to now, to the various husbands. And she has only her talent, which is great.
And your talent. She's got your talent and her talent. So we have a couple of comments and questions. Stephen Marshall says, my father studied with Margaret Mead at Columbia and watched tonight. He loved Nancy Madden.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
That's so great. I think Nancy is a surrogate Margaret.
All right, so let's see. What else do we have? Everybody's saying how wonderful it is. I wonder seeing if there's any questions. I thought I saw a question here. Everybody's they don't have any questions. You fulfilled everybody.
Oh.
You fulfilled everybody. Let's see. So Sandy says, fantastic. She was my hero. I considered becoming a cultural anthropologist, but my university did not yet have that as an offering. I followed her and then came upon Jean Houston, who was her
Oh, yes.
friend. I'm ready to read some of her books again. Jean tells many stories of time with her. I got to know Jean and saw Margaret's cane in a painting of her that happened shortly before Margaret's death. Jean imitates her and it's pure pleasure. Gave a donation. Love this. Perfect.
Oh, yeah, Jean Houston. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Ask about sources. Gods of the upper air?
Yes.
So
Yes.
what sources did you draw on to write the script? That's a couple of questions like that.
That was a wonderful book. It's beautifully written. I recommend it to anybody, called Gods of the Upper Air. And it's only been, it's recent. It's been out maybe a year or two. So that, and I reread a lot of the source material. I reread Coming of Age in Samoa. I reread Ruth Benedict's Patterns of Culture, which I loved when I was in college. What else did I read? Of course, Wikipedia. Of course, of course, her lectures. Looked at some film, some interviews with Margaret Mead, and the deepest thing is that I was a mentee of Joseph Campbell. He was a close friend for a number of years. And I learned about cultural anthropology and about culture, the diversity of culture, understanding primitive cultures and the value of them, and rituals, the importance of ritual and field trips. And so I think he was a very important aspect to confidence, to make me feel confident that I could create this character, because I'm not an anthropologist, haven't been out in the field. It was too hard. When you listen, I had to put in that her ankle was bad, that she was getting bitten by, and bad ankles and malaria. She was a pioneer. So that's most of the, in the novel, there's a wonderful novel called Euphoria, which focuses, Euphoria, which focuses in a fictional way, but drawing on the material of the time of Rio Fortune, Gregory Bateson and Margaret were together in this hotbed. It was on the CPIC, I think. Yeah, and so that was true. The two guys were feuding over Margaret Mead.
So whatever happened with Freeman and that controversy, did that keep playing out, or what happened? Who did somebody win?
Well, I think Margaret Mead has won. There were it was one of the big scandals. There aren't that many. There aren't that many anthropologists. Aren't that many scandals. There were some people who took his point of view, but for the most part, the really reputable anthropologists did not. That they stood by her original fieldwork when she was one of the first ones, who ever did this, and just the kind of recording that she did was fine. So no, I think that was the other thing. I read a number of books about the controversy, and to me, it's a focal point. It's a starting point. The crisis for Margaret Mead, to show her true colors. And I love the fact, and I think Nancy does this beautifully, that she's really weighing it. That she's going, wait a minute, these are the accusations. Could they be true? Is my work going to stand up? And not for the world to defend it, but for herself. How do I feel about this? And I think that's what shows tremendous strength and character. So that's basically the reason I wrote the play, not just to do a biography of Margaret Mead, but to show all of us a way of dealing with an attack of someone who questions us. So how we can turn that in. How about, do you think Donald Trump was watching tonight? Maybe.
Definitely think Donald Trump was watching Marge stream tonight.
Because he could learn something from that, to actually take it as a point of self-reflection.
So what happened? Tell us a little bit about Mary Catherine Bateson. What did she do in her life?
Oh my goodness. She became an anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist, and had a wonderful career. She's written, she's an accomplished author. I read one of her books, which I thought was terrific, which was about the way a woman's life, particularly if she's going to have a family and a real life, is not a straight trajectory. It doesn't move often the way a man's life can move, because there's so many other aspects. And she talked about it and used the image of kind of intertwining the personal and the professional. So yeah, she's I don't know, Nancy, is she still alive? I think she is.
Yeah.
And a long marriage, cross-cultural marriage. And then you got an email for her daughter, right? For Vanny.
Oh, I did. I did locate the granddaughter, Vanny, who actually I found really interesting. She had quite a very good career as an actress. She has done a lot of television and theater and film, and she now works for a company an interesting company that uses theatrical and dramatic teachings and techniques in corporations to train corporate employees very much how to do what Margaret Mead did, how to communicate, how to assess problems and overcome them. And so I did find an email address, and I did write to her about this. She has not responded, but she seems like a super interesting person, so maybe we can track her down. And I think her mother is still alive. I do
I
think,
think so too.
I think her mother is still alive. Yeah, Mary Catherine, I think, is still alive.
How old is Vanny, the granddaughter?
So Vanny was, so she would be about 50, I believe. I believe she was born 69, 70. No, that can't be right. No, that can't be right.
50.
She's younger than me. I'm not sure. Sorry.
Well, anyway, we can
That
probably.
can't
We can
be
look
right.
it up. We can Google.
Yeah.
So somebody's saying I may have missed how to make a donation. Please go to our tip jar. There's a link in our chat room, or you can go to our website, themarsh.org. We will match it up until midnight tonight for this show. So please get your donations in. Please also submit your work to the Marsh Stream International Solo Fest. We get to be more than local right now. We get to be national. We get to be international. We can see all these shows from around the world on Zoom. There's the good part and the hard part of the quarantine.
Yeah.
Shuttering has given us this whole new arm and energy and things to do on Zoom and online. So thank you everybody who came tonight. Any last words, Nancy and Lynn?
No, just thank you to everybody, and thank you for this space to do this. And it's so exciting that so many people were able to be a part of it.
Last words, it was a joy to do this. And we have plans when we can actually go back into a theater to work on this play, probably expand it, because there's still so much about Margaret, and particularly her fight against eugenics that we didn't get to talk about. And that is, that racial profiling. So tonight was a joy, and come back when we're in the theater.
Thank you all so much. I think we're going to have a little closing trailer about our shows. Everyone subscribe to the YouTube channel, because as soon as we get lots of subscribers, we might be able to monetize a little. But on top of that, you will get notices every time one of our shows go live. We are going to have this show on. You can come back to the website. You can tell your friends. We're going to have this through the weekend, and I think up through the week, so you can keep watching the show, and you can see all our shows on Marsh Stream. So come back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next week, a completely different thing. We have Merle Kessler, also known as Ian Scholes, who will be telling stories and singing. And if you don't know him, he is really, really the fast-talking something Ian Scholes, Merle Kessler. Join us next week at Performer Spotlight. Also on Thursday night at my Marsh Stream, join me with Jacob Cornbluth, who has, he was the one that had Robert Reich's nonprofit. He's the one that made that social media boom, and now he's on his own doing things like this these animated films with Kamal Bell, where he really takes very complicated subjects and makes them easy to understand. So join us every night. Join us Thursday next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Be healthy. Stay in good spirits. And watch Marsh Stream. Good night. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Hopefully it'll cool down.
It happens, right? You're on your way to a very important meeting.
The right one, and finally, I turn to the place I always turn when I'm utterly lost and desperate.
Livelier. Can you do something a bit livelier? Of course I can.
We need to talk to you right now. We just need a momento. You can do your homework later.
I composed this song in prison in San Quentin.
Walking down the street, going to the theater. I mean, I had many breakfasts at Venus, and then I had
Read a little excerpt from it right now.
Excerpt. I love that word, excerpt.
And she would call me like from self-help home. She'd go, "They have their Sabbath on Fridays. Did you know that?" And
that one more time, and then we'll go up to your toes. And then you can do the
And 1, 2, 3, hold. And up.
Your ability to be online, pre-check how you look on camera, and also check for glasses. You see how much glare is on those glasses?
Every night I pray for you. I don't even brush my teeth every night.
And know that we are one.
Maria. That's my Starbucks name.
It sounds like hell, if you know what I mean. But for some reason, we call it living the dream. So that's that poem.
Okay, 069, and I don't want any of your smart aleck sex talk that I usually get when I get 069.